What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back to the channel. So this green dream of mine has finally become a reality. Time to open up this UDR and check out what it's all about. So before I open this up though, I want to give a little backstory on why I'm so interested in this truck. I grew up in Southern California where there were some great deserts nearby, and I had a big interest in trophy truck style desert trucks. I used to watch the Baja 500, the Baja 1000. I was a big fan of people like Ivan the Iron Man Stewart. I even had a Toyota truck pre-runner of my own that had some modifications on the suspension. So that's why something like this, which is a pro-scale desert Baja truck, was super appealing to me. When Traxxas released this new color, I said, now's the time to pull the trigger. So let's open this bad boy up and see what's inside. Oh, this color. Look at this color. Got the usual manual and tools. Not seeing the radio yet. Ah, radio's hidden in here. This color really pops. I'm not sure if it's going to do justice on camera, but this thing looks sick. Let me give you a closer look to see what I'm talking about.
Devil in a red dress, call 911, I'm a killer, you know I hate to confess.
So I've only actually owned one Traxxas prior to this. That was the Traxxas Rustler, and that I even bought used. However, this is my first brand new Traxxas, so I'll be able to give you a fresh perspective of the Traxxas ecosystem. So today I'm going to go through the features on this truck, I'll take it out for its first drive, and then I'll give you some reactions. It comes in another new color, which is orange. I went back and forth a little bit, but this green just caught my eye, and man, does it look sharp. It looks awesome in person, and it's got a lot of scale features on it. The main scale feature, though, that always drew me to this truck is the suspension. It is so realistic and so plush. Up in the front, it's got double wishbone suspension and some massive lower arms, as you can see. It's also got twin GTR aluminum shocks in the front and in the rear. In the rear is where it gets interesting. It's got a solid 4-link live axle with trailing arms. Look at the length of that suspension. Huge amount of travel. The solid rear axle is very different from any other trucks that I own, and gives a realistic sense of the weight transfer and suspension articulation when driving. And it's built for just soaking up bumps, much like you would see on the Baja 500 or Baja 1000. This is not meant to be a basher like I'm used to. I'm not going to be jumping this thing, maybe a little bit. This is really a driver's truck. It's not meant for brute force and full sends. It's built for learning to drive and finesse this truck. So aside from my favorite part, the suspension, it's got a 2200 kV motor from Traxxas, which is paired up with the Traxxas electronic speed control called the VXL6S. It's rated at 50 plus miles an hour. Now, typical to Traxxas, they don't really reveal much about the amperage on that, but I would guess it's around 150 amps. This truck is called a Pro Scale, so they don't really necessarily give a rating such as 7th scale like I would imagine this is, but Pro Scale and also scale focused features. You'll see all over the truck, there's all sorts of parts on it, like this little fire extinguisher, these shock bypasses. They're not necessarily functional, but they give that realistic look. These rear tires are functional as spares, and they also give the look, so that's pretty cool. Even the tires themselves have BF Goodrich on them. It's got working LED lights in the front and the rear. It's even got a pilot and co-pilot here in the front that make it look kind of neat. So coming from not having Traxxas cars, I had to adapt to the Traxxas ecosystem model, which means that I had to buy Traxxas batteries because they have Traxxas connectors. I had to buy a Traxxas charger because those charge Traxxas batteries with those connectors, and a Traxxas radio. So you have to buy into this ecosystem in order to run these trucks, unless you start customizing them and changing them out to things like more universal connectors, like the XT90 or the EC5, IC5. That said, it wasn't too difficult to get those things. The analogy of Mac versus PC relates well to this. Apple products generally come in a proprietary system, which has its own way of doing things. There's not a lot of customizability in that, but it's built for ease of use and intuitiveness. PC, on the other hand, may be a little more difficult to learn, but there's a lot more customizability and you have more control over the settings. And that's exactly like this. This equating to an Apple product, whereas something like Arma, which I'm used to, has a lot more of the PC features. There's no brand name charger for Arma, so you're buying the charger that you like, which has all sorts of options to customize, the amperage setting, etc. Let me show you Traxxas's charging system to show you what I mean. So this is literally the first time I'll be using this Traxxas system to charge these Traxxas batteries. So you'll come along with me to see how easy it probably is. All right, so just plugged it in, and you can see it's got some lights flashing on it. So I'll plug in the batteries here. So it auto kind of registers what they are. Looks like they're set to balance. That would be balance charge. It says press and hold to start. So we'll go ahead and do that. There's 1, 2. Okay, and as easy as that. So as you can see, really straightforward and simple. I don't as much like that because as someone who's more advanced in the hobby, I want more adjustability. There's no way to tell what the cells are, if they're balanced or if one of them's off. All sorts of details like that on my other charger that you can do, this doesn't have. However, on the other end, if you're starting out into the hobby, this is new to you, or you really don't want to mess with those adjustments, then really this is built for people like that. These batteries are relatively underpowered, I would say, compared to what I'm used to. The 5000 milliamp is not that large. I'm used to getting a little bit higher on the milliamp, so the batteries last longer. The other thing is this C rating is very low. 25C. If you want more info on what these numbers mean and why I am equating those meanings to those numbers, check out my LiPo video that I did where I describe all sorts of this information. Another thing to note is that this also comes a little bit underpowered. It charges at 4 amps when you've got 2 batteries connected. So I switched it to this high output mode thinking, oh great, I can get 8 amps and it only allows you to do one side that way. So only this battery is charging at the high output 8 amp range. So as you can see there, it's really easy and intuitive to use, but there's not much I could change on it. So the batteries go in underneath here, which is unique. And then the batteries go right in there. Alright, just have to put these AA batteries in and we should be good to go, which happen to be Arma batteries. It's a little bit of RC blasphemy going on here. Sorry, Traxxas. Had to do it. Alright, let's turn this on. Not the greatest looking servo. Well, I just went through a whole bunch of stuff online to try to figure out why this thing will not turn off. And I think it's that they don't have an off button on this thing other than unplugging the truck. But let's go give it a spin for its maiden voyage. Wow, this thing is super fun. So I will say, first off, what I noticed is it's not quite as fast as some of the Arma vehicles. And it definitely traction rolls very easily, as you could see. I can't wait to get this off-road and really see how it feels. So I did a little research on this, and it turns out that the Traxxas Link app on your phone, which allows you to see all sorts of things and adjust the ESC a little more, requires another part in order to make it function. So you have to purchase a Traxxas Link wireless module in order to apply it to this radio and then utilize the features on that app. That's kind of a bummer. I wish it came stock like that. And even with that, I'm not sure if it gives you the full access to the dashboard, which is this really cool looking aspect of it that shows the speed, the RPMs, temperature, and other gauges. You might need to buy an extra telemetry expander. This truck costs about $750. That comes with the truck and the remote. However, you need to get those Traxxas batteries and charger that it requires, and that's another $250 as a package. If you add in those other additions which I talked about, this begins to add up to over $1,000 for this truck. So because I don't have the ability to connect Bluetooth to that app so that I can change things, I can't turn on the lights. As you saw in the video, the rear lights come on. Those look awesome. It's got a yellow light while you're driving forward, and then when you hit the brakes, the red light comes on in the back. But come on, Traxxas, of course I'd want these to come on first. And the only way to access that, unfortunately, is to take off this body. That typically wouldn't be a big deal with most trucks, but the UDR is a whole different animal. Check it out. Okay, there we go. 12 screws later, the body comes off. Let's see how easily it comes off. Okay, wow, finally figured out how to get this off. That took forever. Oh wow, that looks awesome. Well, now you can really see the scale look in here. So here is this high voltage power amplifier that should control the lights. There we go, look at that. Wow, those are bright. And I believe, wow, even brighter, jeez. And as you can see, the brake lights come on as well. All right, body's back on. Geez, that was a lot of work. You would think that Traxxas would redesign that system. Now they made new bodies, but they didn't change anything else on the truck. One of the things that would have been nice is to change that so you can actually turn the lights on and off without dismantling this 12 screw body. Okay guys, time to try out this beast where it belongs, in the dirt. Nice. So much easier. So much easier to keep it on its feet here on the dirt. Nice. This is so fun. Hard to describe how fun this is. This thing's awesome. Whoa, first rollover. Ooh, hard hit. Oh, whoops. So that's why you don't bash this thing. There's really no air control. But it's so fun on the ground that doesn't matter. Yamaha 500 ICRC 83 style. Let's go. Oops, still going. Love it. All right, so there you have it. This truck is very unique and very fun. The driving dynamics alone make this truck worth it for me. However, there are some annoyances that come along with that. I don't necessarily like being bound to Traxxas's ecosystem. For now, I'm stuck with Traxxas's batteries, which appear a little underpowered, and this silly system where you have to take off the body in order to get to things like turning on the lights or no off button on the truck. According to Traxxas, this looks like a safety feature that they put on so that people don't think the truck is off and it's still actually running. But for most people, I think they can figure out how to turn on and off a truck, and I'd like it if it was a little more accessible. And the fact that you have to turn on the lights by taking off this body, which is quite difficult to get off. However, that said, this truck is pretty awesome. I do love the look of the lights. I love the scale look of it, and the suspension is really the best part. This truck is a driver's truck, and I can't wait to learn how to drive it better. So I do think it was worth it for me to cross over into Traxxas territory. Now that I've got this thing, I'm planning to do some cool new videos on it. So stay tuned for those. You're not going to want to miss them. But as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.